There's a crucial molecule in your body that helps control everything: your circulation, your energy, your stamina, your heart, even your sharpness of mind. It's called nitric oxide. But after age 40, your body makes less and less of it. Less blood flow, less stamina, less of you. But now there's N101, the nitric oxide lozenge developed by Dr. Nathan Bryan, the world's leading nitric oxide researcher backed by Nobel Prize-winning science. N101 is designed to naturally restore your body's nitric oxide levels. Just do what I do and let one dissolve in your mouth twice a day. I especially make sure to take it before workouts. N101 goes to work in minutes, releasing nitric oxide directly into your bloodstream, supporting healthy circulation, boosting oxygen delivery to your muscles and brain, helping you feel the way you're supposed to feel. More energy, better blood flow, sharper focus. Day after day. N101, it's the science of you working better. Visit HoffmanNO.com. That's HoffmanNO.com and use coupon code Hoffman10 for 10% off N101. Welcome back to today's Intelligent Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ronald Hoffman. We're taking a deep dive on the subject of urolithin A, which is a remarkable supplement, now available as a supplement. It's a compound derived from pomegranate. So could you just give us a little bit of the background on the discovery of urolithin A? Because, I think we have for a long time, we've recognized that pomegranate is healthy, right? We've had the Palm Wonderful and the ads and all that stuff about, how it's a longevity, functional food. But what Timeline did is they did a little deeper dive on that. And rather than saying, here's our pomegranate juice, they said, let's focus on what it is in pomegranate. That's kind of the business end of the pomegranate phytonutrients. And so give us the background on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And really what the founders of Timeline look to do is deconstruct the pomegranate for exactly the reasons you lay out, where what are the actual components of a pomegranate that have these health benefits? And if we think back 15 to 20 years, pomegranates were really having a heyday, understandably so. And that's when Timeline was founded. And this was a long process, several years of actually going through every single molecule that's in the pomegranate. And ultimately what the team came to was urolithin A. Now, a note about urolithin A is that, of course, it's a natural molecule, but it's a postbiotic. And that means that it's something when we eat a dietary precursor, so some of the polyphenols in pomegranates, it's L-gitannins, our gut microbiome will convert this precursor into a postbiotic. And that's what urolithin A is. It's this postbiotic, and originally it was thought just to be a waste product of digestion. But going through the research here in partnership with Johan Nargs, who's a fantastic researcher in the mitochondrial space here at the EPFL, where we were spun out of. It's kind of like Switzerland's MIT for listeners maybe not familiar with European institutions, but it was one of those things where when we started looking at this waste product, quote unquote, urolithin A, it was having remarkable benefits in these preclinical models and, extending lifespan upwards of 50%, improving strength and endurance in these animals, 12, 20, 30%, really remarkable. And this is work that's published in Nature Medicine back in 2016. And so that was kind of the discovery of urolithin A. After seeing that it had these benefits, it was acting through the mitochondria, as we've talked about. The team turned their attention to the real question, which is, can this help humans? Because
right. Because a lot of stuff is great for rats. We're doing amazing things. We're curing all kinds of diseases in rats and mice. But yeah.
Yeah, we love the animals, but at the end of the day, it's about making human lives better. And so for the last 10 years, Dr. Chris Wrench and Dr. Anurag Singh really have been leading this clinical program of trying to take that rigorous pharmaceutical-like approach to this natural ingredient, this food supplement. And so it started with what would be the equivalent kind of like phase 1A, 1B trials, where it's like, is it safe? What's the right dose? What's it then doing in the early stages? And This is the work that was published in Nature Metabolism, I guess now 7, 8 years ago.
Hmm.
Time flies, but showing that it's bioavailable. The sweet spot is that half gram, so 500 milligrams to a 1 gram dose. And that, of course, yes, it's extremely safe. It's a terrific safety profile. And after 1 month, looking at muscle biopsies, we see the renewal of mitochondria. We see this improved mitochondrial and cellular energetics signature in the muscle of these individuals taking mitopure urolithin A. So
Which actually,
that really
in
set
some
the
cases, some
foundation.
incremental improvements in strength, in muscle strength,
Yeah.
especially in older individuals where there might be a little bit more in terms of a power failure in their mitochondria.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's exactly what followed after that phase one work is the actual randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trials of what happens when we take this and start looking at functional benefits. So this has been done now in multiple times in that kind of aging, so 40 to 65 or upwards up to 80 years old. And those are the results that we're seeing after, 2 and 4 months of supplementation, like the 12% increases in strength, these clinically meaningful changes in 6-minute walk test and VO2 max.
That's actually what
It-
got
it-
my attention. Describe that
yeah.
6 minute walk test because that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's a timed walk, and you see how far you can go. And the
Yeah.
group selected for this were older individuals or metabolic
Yes.
syndrome individuals or what?
Yeah, so this was done in a couple trials. In one, it was middle-aged adults who had kind of low physical activity,
Hmm.
relative like a
Deconditioned.
normal BMI.
Yeah.
Yeah, we say BMI 25 to 35, which
Hmm.
by the letter of the law is high,
It's
but
overweight.
that's the average
It is.
American.
It is. Yeah. Right.
And so for these individuals, taking supplement, either placebo, 500 milligrams or a gram for 4 months, and measuring these outcomes before, during, and after. And that 6-minute walk test, it's a great tool to have in your tool belt if you're working with individuals, you have patients, because you quite literally just need to measure out 30 meters. There are some validated variations on this. But just like you said, you have someone walk as far as they can in 6 minutes. And because this has been done so much, there are some great ties to function and that epidemiological showing of, that someone's ability to do this has meaningful
Yeah.
relations to health. So in
It's
this
it's a
case, it's
predictor of
the
longevity. It's a predictor of your susceptibility to various diseases and death.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
it's a key fitness marker. I wish we did that on at virtually every physical exam. We do a bunch of blood tests. You know, but in terms of functional testing, we don't even pay attention to that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a terrific one, and there are plenty of options too that we could do a whole show on. But just the accessible ways to measure function and fitness in the
We could do
clinic
grip
that take
tests.
even less than six
Yeah,
minutes.
you could use
Exactly.
like a grip meter that precisely quantitates your grip strength. I mean, those are
Yep.
all simple office measures to assess
Yeah.
muscular health and endurance.
Yeah. The short physical performance battery is a great one as well. It's 3 tests that you can do them all in under 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a really key outcome and one that we've included in multiple trials now. But seeing that meaningful improvement in the groups taking MitoPure was a great signal for sure to see in that.
So what's interesting is that you've got a compound that is present in pomegranate. And so all that research could amount to, hey, let's drink more pomegranate juice or,
Yeah,
let's eat pomegranates. But there's a hitch because some
yeah,
people don't make it because it's a postbiotic. You have to have the right bacterial composition. And it's kind of a crapshoot, excuse the pun, because
yeah.
your microbiome may or may not have the requisite bacteria to undertake that transformation. And so some people may be making urolithin when they consume pomegranate, but the majority of people probably not so much.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought this up. I totally skipped over that as we were
Yeah,
kind of going through the arc of the discovery and development. But before getting into these longer trials, once the safety was established, that was the first question: is just, can we just eat a bunch of
right,
pomegranates?
right. Yeah, it's like that would
Yeah,
render the whole, intellectual property less valuable because, like, yeah, we just demonstrated that pomegranate is a healthy thing to eat.
Yeah, and even before that, I mean, like I said, the objective here is just like what's going to have a meaningful impact. And I'm food first
Hmm.
whenever you can.
Yep.
What's really unique in this case is that it's not something we could otherwise access from our food. And there are a few supplements like that. We already talked about creatine, but this was something that was studied in at first 100 individuals in the US, and now we've done hundreds and hundreds of excuse me, not studies, participants, thousands of participants around the world looking at how much do people make naturally. And so this is a randomized crossover design where people will have a glass of pomegranate juice, which is really rich in those L-gitannins, the precursors to urolithin A. We'll take a spot blood sample afterwards and measure how much urolithin A is in their blood. We'll wash out and then repeat this again with the dose of Mitopure. And what we found are two main things. One, over 60% of people cannot make urolithin A in
Hmm.
any meaningful amount, or not meaningful, but it has a high level, we would call it, for natural standards. And so the vast majority of us cannot produce this naturally. And that number is even higher actually in parts of the world like Canada, US, part where it's over 80% of people cannot make this.
Maybe
So
possibly because of the over dependence on ultra processed foods.
I definitely think the diet's got a part to do with it. And the highest score, maybe surprisingly or unsurprisingly, was France.
Okay.
And that was where there's the most. But I guess looking at the diet, you can kind of draw some or form some hypotheses on why that might be. But so the majority of people do not make this. You can eat as many pomegranates as you want, and I'm in the same boat. The gut microbiome just can't do it. And even in those who can make it, it's a substantially less amount. It's about 6 times less urolithin A than you would get from one dose of Mitopure. And so the two things are really, well, most of us can't make it, and the supplementation is a way to bypass that shortcoming in our gut microbiome. And for those that can make it, to get into that level where we see these clinical benefits with the half gram to 1 gram dose, you would have to drink, well, 6 cups, but like a liter and a half of pomegranate juice
Right.
just to have the
Which would
same
deliver about
exposure.
700 calories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's not quite the
Right.
most practical.
Right.
And so this is really one of the few cases where I'd say targeted supplementation is the best option because we can't otherwise benefit from this molecule if it's just our diet.
So here's the other potential problem when you're coming up with these new novel nutraceuticals. And it was the resveratrol problem. The resveratrol problem was that they demonstrated benefits to resveratrol, and there was some resveratrol in red wine. It turns out not enough to make a difference. And then they tried to put it in a supplement. And in fact, GlaxoSmithKline, a big pharmaceutical company, got real excited about that, bought in effect, an entire laboratory which was developing resveratrol products, uh, and ultimately had to write it off because what they discovered is that the amount that they'd have to give was so infeasible, such a high amount to achieve some sort of effect that it was not economically feasible. It wasn't even possible to consume that amount of resveratrol. But what's nice about Mitopure is that you can put in a pill, you can put in a powder, you can put it into a gummy in a in a reasonable form. You take a couple of gummies a day, you're going to hit actually that level that was clinically demonstrated to be helpful. A lot of these studies, you stack the deck, you give more than you would give to a consumer, and you see
Yep.
the effect. And then you kind of say, well, hey, the price point would be like they'd have to pay $600 a month to achieve what we did in our experiments. So we'll give you a little bit of that stuff. You're given the actual amounts that worked in the experiments.
Correct. The dose you can buy, the 500 milligrams to 1 gram, that's what we test in clinic. There's a multiple forms. We make sure that they're formulated and have tested that and proven that they're all bioequivalent. So you can be rest assured that either form, the powder, the capsule, or the gummy, you'll be getting the dose that has been proven in clinical trials.
Right. I take enough capsules. I take a whole mess of capsules. So I don't need more capsules. So I take the powder, I put it in a smoothie when I'm at home. But I travel frequently. When I travel, the gummies are really handy. I'm just, getting packed for a trip to Europe.
Yeah.
And I threw just a packet of, I believe it's 60 gummies, which should carry me
Yep.
through a trip of several weeks. That'll be perfect. And they taste good. And by the way, a lot of people worry about gummies that they're full of sugar. I don't
Yeah.
think there's a lot of
Zero
sugar. If
sugar, sugar
zero,
free.
okay, great.
Yeah, I've got it right here. But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's two gummies, and everything's packaged where it'll have 1 month's supply. So
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
gummies, it's two gummies to get the 500, two soft gels, and then the powders are already in 500. But the clean label is really a key part of of the formulations, because we want to avoid a lot of the junk that goes into some other supplements. And while we're on the safety, it's probably worth actually just mentioning the supplements, coming from particularly a sports background and one where drug testing was prevalent,
Yeah.
you quickly realize that the supplements are the wild, wild west. And
Yeah.
it is worth noting that the third-party testing is of huge importance for any supplement people are looking to buy. And
But
Mitopure
particularly
is
for
simply.
athletes, particularly for
Yes,
athletes. Yeah.
yeah. There's a few too many horror stories of people not realizing there was a trace element of a banned substance and getting, not being able to compete because of it. But for all of
It's
us,
a
it's
violation
really a
of
matter of
WADA,
safety.
the World Anti-Doping Association. They're very careful to spot test athletes for the presence of
Yep.
banned substances. So, is there a big uptake in the athletic community of this product that you know of? I don't see anybody yet. Like the indie racers, with the logos, wearing a timeline logo yet. But do you have sports teams who are interested in this?
Yeah, there's actually numerous sports teams around the world at the highest level. Like I said, some of the studies have been in those folks getting ready for the Olympics, but whether it be basketball, baseball, football, cycling teams, there are several groups around the world that it's a key part of the performance recipe that they have to work at their best.
Okay, folks, at this point, let's pause and allow one of our sponsors an opportunity to share an important message with you. So here goes. Listen up.
Has your digestive health been striking out due to poor food choices, medications, stress, and other lifestyle issues? This season, hit a home run for your digestive health with Dr. Ohhira's Probiotics. Dr. Ohhira's Probiotics is a live probiotic encapsulated in small, easy-to-swallow capsules that delivers Dr. Ohhira's signature blend of pre, pro, and postbiotics. Dr. Ohhira's award-winning formula contains a prebiotic blend of fruits and vegetables, which are naturally fermented with 13 strains of live probiotic bacteria for a minimum of 3 years. The result? Dr. Ohhira's game-changing postbiotic metabolites, which are key to supporting long-term digestive, immune, and cognitive function. Dr. Ohhira's Probiotics, an all-star formulation and the best probiotic on the market today for overall digestive health and wellness. Dr. Ohhira's Probiotics, available at Sprouts, Natural Grocers, and other natural health retailers nationwide.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting our sponsors. They, of course, are what make intelligent medicine continuing free resource to you. And now back to today's guest, who is Dr. Brad Currier, clinical trial manager at Timeline, a Swiss biotech company that is the maker of Mitopure. Let's segue to another aspect of this, which is immunity, because it
Yeah.
turns out that immunity is an energetic process. If you've got tired white blood cells, they're not going to fight infection. They're not going to make the important compounds that help to neutralize foreign invaders and attack cancer. So there is actually a study that you guys were excited about that actually showed some immune modulation effects of Mitopure.
Yeah, this came about from back to that foundational bit, targeting health at the cellular source. It's applicable to so many different tissues. Of course, muscle was a huge focus, but mitochondria are everywhere. Everything except red blood cells has mitochondria. And the immune story was one, really credit a lot to our chief medical officer, Dr. Anurag Singh, who's an immunologist by training. And one of the things we'd seen in these muscle studies was a reduction in inflammatory markers. So kind of that elevated inflammation. You need some inflammation to recover,
Hmm.
but that dampening of the chronic low-grade inflammation we see with aging was going down, and it sparked the idea, okay, well, what's going on? Is there something in the immune system? And this trial was actually just published at the end of last year in Nature Aging. And really what happened here is took 50
Which is, by the way, a
individuals.
top tier publication because it's not easy to get into these journals. These days, you frankly, you could buy your way into kind of a shoddy medical journal and get your stuff published, but Nature Aging, that's top of the line.
Yeah, it's a full credit to the team led by Dominic Denk, who's at the time working in Germany, is now based in California. But Florian Gretchen and Dominic Denk were the academic collaborators on this, where we had these individuals randomized to mitopure placebo for 1 month. And what we partnered with the Buck Institute of Aging on this
Oh,
and did
fantastic.
this deep profiling of the immune system. So blood samples before and after from each group. And it's really fascinating what they're able to do. We're actually going and looking at every single type of cell in the immune system and not only just identifying them, but looking at things like the mitochondria function within these cell types. And really what it all, kind of circled around to, one of the main findings was that there's this type of cell in our immune system. We've got the CD98 T cells, where this is the stem cell-like part of our immune system that can adapt to a new toxin or pathogen that it recognizes and mount the immune response. And these decline with age. And what we saw was a rejuvenation of this pool of these stem cell-like parts of our immune system. And that was underpinned by improved fatty acid oxidation and mitochondrial function in these cells.
Hmm.
So this, there's a whole line of experiments, multiple lines of evidence in this paper, but really the take home is that there was this complete kind of restoration or this kind of revitalization of an aging immune system with the addition of MitoPure supplementation.
So that I think is a very exciting area. And also, I think there are exciting potential ramifications for brain health because, as is often stated, the statistic is that the brain is 2% of your body weight, but is responsible for 20% of the energy utilization in your body, a high energy organ, dependent on optimal mitochondrial function. There's actually more and more research now in Alzheimer's and in dementia on, what is the mitochondrial roadblock that leads to cognitive decline. So research is underway on that. I don't know if there are any papers yet.
Yeah, the brain area is kind of one of the next frontiers that we're looking to tackle. And I will say too, most of the research done now is by academics and scientists independent of timeline. And so there
Which
are
is a
some
good
groups
sign.
working.
So you don't have to
Yeah,
push this
yeah.
anymore. They're coming to you and they're saying, we want to collaborate with you to do this research, and can you provide some of the material?
Yeah, collaborate and also too, just sometimes doing it entirely independent. They just
Hmm.
go buy MitoPure themselves and
Oh,
will
awesome.
run the studies.
Yeah.
But so there's several ongoing projects in the cognitive space and others. Actually, a follow up to the immune trial with the same group. We're trying to take it to the next level by just seeing what happens when we apply this same MitoPure as an adjunct to cancer therapies. Ketramol, like one of the most widely prescribed drugs in this case, is there an additive effect if we add MitoPure to this? And that's a trial that we have ongoing right now
What's
in
the drug again?
Germany.
I'm sorry.
Ketradust, so like lung cancer patients,
Oh,
this that they have in this, and it's I don't want to get them the number wrong, but it is one of the most prescribed drugs in the world.
okay. Interesting.
So
So to see if there's a synergy that, potentiates the effects of the medication. I think
Yeah,
that's an interesting direction too, because we don't, it's not an either or. It's we really want to do an integrative medicine approach, given that people
exactly.
take, potent medications, and the medications are likely to work better if you have an intact mitochondrial system and optimal immune response. So,
Yeah. And on the cognitive side, I will just
yeah,
say, stay
sure.
tuned.
Yeah.
Work's ongoing.
Okay.
It's
Well,
ongoing. And so,
maybe that'll be the subject of our next podcast.
yeah,
If these, I know that, look, in science, you may have the inside track on some promising results, but until things are published, you can't actually jump the gun. These are the information is embargoed, as they say.
yeah.
You can't speak to a paper that is yet under review and hasn't yet been published. So finally, and this sounds a little frivolous, okay, now we're going to put the stuff into a skin cream. But yeah, I got to say that from a marketing standpoint, there's probably a lot more people who are concerned about how they look and how their skin ages than people who are insightful enough to recognize that they ought to be taking care of their bodies, before the onset of challenging medical conditions. So yeah, skincare, a big issue. Also, you got a great tradition in Switzerland of, companies like La Prairie, who are making exquisite skincare products, pricey formulas that women snap up at, department store counters. So there is evidence, and there's actually research that supports skin rejuvenation through
Yeah.
support of the mitochondria within skin. Skin is the most rapidly regenerating organ, perhaps also the hair follicles, because you're constantly turning those over, and it requires a lot of energetics. So where's the evidence that this can help?
It's our skin's our largest organ, right? And it's got lots of mitochondria. Skin came about quite organically, actually. It was during some of the muscle studies that, participants and people taking the product, just anecdotal feedback saying, I'm feeling more energetic, getting stronger, and my skin looks better.
Okay.
And we thought, and the team at Timeline thought, well, that's pretty interesting. Let's actually look at this with our, rigorous and actual clinical designs. Let's see if there's truly an effect here. So Mitopure was formulated into a topical application, and that research has really gone. It's been a full life of its own. We just started our now 14th clinical trial on topical applications. And we took the very same approach as with supplementation, where at first, of course, established the safety, but then looking at skin biopsies to figure out, like, in humans that we were collecting skin biopsies using the product, what's going on at a molecular level. And we see this increase in collagen synthesis and this organization of the matrix that actually forms the skin barrier. So from there, it's now been, spun the technology into different products with use cases. So there's 6 products now, ranging from the moisturizers to serums, cleansers, exfoliators, and everything has been proven in multiple clinical trials. Whether it be reducing the wrinkles, improving hydration, actually improving the skin barrier function. The range of products has this really great array of unique benefits.
So they're combined with other plausible ingredients that are healthy for the skin, but at the same time, you're delivering urolithin A to the subsurface layers where the skin is constantly reconstituted, collagen is being manufactured, etc.
Yeah, so there's been a combination of both Mitopure alone research to look at what the technology actually does, but then in these finished products, having other things that clinically proven and that we demonstrate to have an additive effect. And the skin is one that's just going to keep growing. It's, of course, very important, very popular. And over the last few years, we've actually had this fantastic partnership with L'Oreal Lancôme. And they just announced a new line that will be coming out in about a month. I'm not sure when this will drop, but you'll see that Lancôme's premier line, Absolute MD, that they've created, and you'll see Mitopure right there. It's a collaboration. So Mitopure being worked into that line, which is coming and will really be fantastic.
So that's for, I think, the general audience, because Lancome has great outreach into a lot of retail channels, but you can order the stuff directly from Timeline, right?
Yep. Yeah. So all on the website, Amazon, all of Timeline's products, and then yeah, the strategic partnership with L'Oreal Lancome, both from a research side, is a fantastic team of scientists
Yeah,
there.
that's the
I
real
mean,
deal. I mean, they
army of
probably have
scientists.
it's a major company that they're always looking for, the latest, greatest skin rejuvenating formula.
Yeah.
And so I think kudos to you that they've selected urolithin A, the MitoPure ingredient, as something that they want to put into their anti-aging formulas. And so you can get the skin formulas. For more information to order, you can just go to timeline.com/Hoffman and use coupon code Hoffman at checkout for 20% off. And so, okay, so there, I mean, I got to say that I'm just like when it comes to skincare, I'm like I applying aftershave is about as far as I can go. I'm not into the skin masks. I'm not into the under eye. I'm not into the sleep masks. So what could you recommend for a guy who wants kind of just basic skin support? And, it's not going to, without a lot of
Yeah,
muss and fuss.
yeah. What I would say to the males, I'm with you. That was
Right.
not something for in all my years. Skincare and products were not at the top of
But that's too
my
much
to-do
ignored by
list.
guys. Guys should take care of
Yeah,
their skin.
you're absolutely right.
It's not,
And aftershave,
it's not, either, it's not binary. It's not like zero or, you're going to apply, 14 different potions to your skin.
yeah, exactly. It's not binary. And so for me, what I found, okay, I was looking at the research, I was understanding a bit more. I said, okay, this is something that the maybe begrudgingly to my fiance, I admitted defeat, and I said, all right, let's give it a shot. And really, what I've liked and what I found is my gateway into the essentials, I'll call them, was Timeline's cleanser. Because that was
Okay.
one, whether we're training, we're out in the environment all day, you can kind of get that feeling at the end of the day that you almost just want to shower. And the cleanser's great. I wasn't gonna add any new product to my routine outside of the shower easily. And it was one, credit to her. She just said, "Well, you're in the shower already. Just use it." And it takes 30 seconds, 40 seconds, just scrubbing your face. And that was one where I did feel an incredible difference. That kind of almost filmy, sweatiness that you can have after a day, really does a fantastic job. Aligning with the clinical trials we've done in that space. And then the moisturizers for me. So the dewy cream and the barrier cream are the
Right.
two main ones.
Yeah, especially in winter, or in
Yeah.
summer, or when I swim and I'm in a lot of chlorine, my skin gets very dry. So I think a moisturizer would be in order. And I've tried some of your products. It's just a matter of being consistent. But I know how this works. With the ladies out there, we had you at hello. You're gonna get this stuff. When it comes to the guys, it's going to be you, the ladies, who are going to tell your guy, "Hey, take care of your skin, take care of your face, because there's some things you could do to retard that process." By which, I mean, it's one thing to be looking like rugged and kind of that leathery look that some women find appealing, but yeah, after a while it gets a bit much.
Yeah, skin is a dynamic tissue. It's not this stagnant barrier between our living self and our external environment. It's a living dynamic tissue. And as a guy who has caved to the pleas to incorporate some skincare, I can say truly, it makes a beneficial difference.
But so what we're actually talking about, we're talking about an inside out phenomenon because, I've often talked about, when it comes to skin, it's not so much what you smear on your skin, it's what you take internally. I tell people, when it comes to skin, get a lube job from within because that will actually promote skin health. So to the extent to the double-edged approach, apply it topically, but also take it internally. I think you're going to get a rejuvenating effect throughout your body. And, that'll be manifest in your superficial appearance. So yeah, good stuff. So fantastic. Can we touch upon pretty much everything we want to touch upon? Any other points you want to make?
No, this has been great. I really appreciate you having me on, as always, to talk about whatever's hot in the muscle and health space. And then, yeah, of course, about timeline and Mitopure.
Indeed. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. And by the way, I just really enjoy our conversations. You have a great way of breaking down the science. A lot of PhDs, a little wonky, maybe not so great on the communication side. You really, you're deep into the science and the research terminology as a clinical trial manager, but you also manage to convey it in a way that's understandable to the public. So this is a great product. I recommend that y'all try it and take it consistently. I think you're going to see the difference in terms of how you feel, how you perform, and ultimately over the years, I think you'll garner a lot of benefits from the mitophagy enhancing properties of urolithin A. I think it's really legit. So once again, for more information to order, just go to timeline.com/Hoffman. We've set up a channel for intelligent medicine listeners to enjoy a 20% discount off Mitopure gummies with code Hoffman at timeline.com/Hoffman. So great stuff. Keep up the great work. We'll reconvene as new, and I'm sure, in the next few months, there'll be some new developments and we'll circle back, find out more about what's going on the Mitopure front. So I'm going to let you go because it's late over there by you. Time to wind down. And we appreciate it very much.
Thanks very much, Dr. Hoffman. And the research list is like a reading list. The more you do, the more there is to do. So always new stuff to talk about.
And we have a great article on this at our website. I want to mention it's entitled Rethinking Muscle Health, the Mitochondrial Connection. So if you want to go get a little sciencey, go to drhoffman.com and look at that article, Rethinking Muscle Health, the Mitochondrial Connection. With links to a lot of the studies that we've talked about here on the program. Thanks a lot, Dr. Brad Currier. I'm Dr. Ronald Hoffman, and this is the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. I want to thank you for listening to the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast app, and get new episodes automatically downloaded every weekday. And please give us a rating and review. It truly helps new people discover intelligent medicine. The Intelligent Medicine Podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice, and no doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they may have, and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Finally, please visit drhoffman.com and discover everything intelligent medicine has to offer, including frequently updated, unbiased health news and fully vetted product and supplement recommendations. You're listening to Intelligent Medicine, a resource to help you take control of your health. We offer a balanced, objective analysis of all your health, wellness, and aging options, both conventional and alternative. Now you can take your engagement to the next level by joining FullScript. FullScript is my online dispensing platform that only offers curated, professional-grade supplement brands that I know and trust. Never counterfeit or expired, always stored and shipped correctly. Just go to drhoffmanstore.com for more information and to start your free FullScript account. Buying through FullScript offers fast, free shipping, optional refill reminders, a mobile-friendly site. It's safe, secure, and HIPAA compliant and offers world-class support. Just go to drhoffmanstore.com. You'll get access to the supplements and features you need to help you achieve your wellness goals, including my custom targeted protocols that combine the products I recommend to address specific needs, heart health, immune support, and much more. It's all at drhoffmanstore.com. drhoffmanstore.com.